Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I can be heard. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Brown Girls Are Beautiful. I am your hostess and your melanated queen. Now, let's see if I can find myself. You know how this goes. Y'all, it's been a while since I've been on here regularly, okay? So I'm trying to get back into the swing of it all. Um, I do enjoy coming on live for y'all. I just did a live stream on my YouTube channel, so I'm here now and we're going to see. Okay. All right, let me click on this, y'all. Let me see if I can be heard at all. Okay. All right, so it sounds like I can be heard. All right, let me go ahead and send this video out. Let me go ahead and send this video out, y'all. All right. Greetings, greetings, greetings. All right. Heute ist Mittwoch. Today is Wednesday, y'all. The title of this video is This World is Not. Es ist nicht. Okay, it is not the same. What do I mean by it's not the same, y'all? We are living in different times in this earthly realm. We are living in some very treacherous, scary, dangerous times. People have turned into heathens, miscreants, hooligans, hoodlums. People do not cherish human life anymore. All right, and I'm starting to think that we were born into an energetic realm of chaos and evil that's being run by the higher upper echelon of this planet. It's a very scary time to be living in, y'all. So I want to share something with you all, and I'm hoping that YouTube does not do anything with my video, y'all, because they have a tendency to do that. Let me see if I can find myself on here, y'all. All right, let me click on here. All right, so there's glare coming up on my glasses. I might take these off, even though they're really helping my eyes. All right, I don't want all that glare showing up. I'm trying to see how I look on the screen, y'all. So excuse me for looking away. Look at me, a hot mess, but I'm here, y'all. I'm here regardless. I am here regardless. So let's get into it because I want to actually share something with y'all. All right. Now let's make sure that this is shareable. It's been so long since I've shared my screen. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Let's see if I hit the plus button. Okay, and then hit share screen, and then hit share screen again, and then go here. Okay, I think I got it, y'all. I think I got it. All right, so this is actually something that I want to show y'all. All right, so I hope you can see it up here. This is the Florida Surgeon General, everyone. It's the Florida Surgeon General speaks out against COVID 19 mRNA vaccines. Remember, I spoke about this back in 2020 when this first hit the market. And I spoke out against it. And because of that, my channel was heavily penalized for speaking out against this. If you all remember, Dr. Rashid Buttar spoke out about it as well. He actually came out here and had a seminar with the doctors. And I just want you to hear what this melanated doctor here in Florida has to say about the COVID after everybody was, basically urged and coaxed into getting these for not only themselves, but their children and elderly people, some of which are no longer here to walk this earthly realm because they transitioned as a result of some of this nonsense. Let's hear what he has to say.
So first, want to thank you all for being here today. And I want to also thank our speakers who've come to join us, Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Joel Walskog. So Dr. Pierre Corey, who is a fantastic critical care physician, I got to know him early during the pandemic. He was, and very notably, back when people were first getting critically ill and in the ICU, Dr. Corey gave testimony at the Senate or the House, I can't remember which, and said that he was taking care of these patients and they were doing better with steroids. And Dr. Corey was, sort of ridiculed, and he received a lot of pushback for what he was saying. Months later, in fact, the randomized clinical trials showed that Dr. Corey was exactly correct. And steroid therapy for people who were intubated, people who had hypoxia with COVID-19 became the standard of care. Just a fantastic physician. Dr. Walskog, today is my first.
All right. So remember, they were intubating the patients, meaning they were sticking tubes down their throat because they claimed that these people needed breathing machines. They claimed that they needed respirators, and they needed to be intubated for some reason because a lot of people were claiming they couldn't breathe. But remember, Dr. Rashid Buttar, I think that's his name, told us that one of the ABCs of emergency care is making sure that they had an airway and that nothing was blocking the airway, and that in fact these patients, their tracheas were being blocked off from some of these respirators that were being placed down their throats. So this is what he's talking about here.
Meeting him, and he is a leader in a group called React 19. React 19 is a group that tends to the needs of the vaccine injured. Right now, there's a tragedy going on in the background, and that tragedy is that first, a product was designed too rapidly without sufficient testing, and that is the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines.
All right, so I'm not saying this, okay? YouTube and whoever else, the doctor is saying it. So I don't want anybody coming after me trying to STRIKE my channel because of something that was already posted by Florida Health. A Florida Surgeon General speaks against COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. This is coming from his mouth, not mine. Let's continue.
Second, that product was pushed out, often forced out, and distributed with coercion to so many millions, tens of millions of people in this country and millions of people around the world, to the tune of billions of people in total. And finally,
notice he used the word coercion, pushed out to millions of people, coercion. Now, if this were in a court of law, since we just went over the Diddy trial, and since they put him on the stand for baby oil, coercion, right? Now, we already saw the text messages where Cassie basically said that, she willingly was a participant and was making arrangements for these freak offs. However, people were being miseducated, misguided by professionals to get this for not only themselves, but their family members and their children and babies. Coercion. That sounds to me like a crime has taken place. What are your thoughts? These are the doctor's words, not mine. All right, let's continue.
when people were injured by that inadequately tested product, the ability to study their injuries, the ability to help them.
Let's stop right there. Okay. So basically, whatever this injection was, because I don't consider that a vaccine, something to help people, this was an experiment. And it said, he just stated that it was not properly tested. So, what do you think these walking people, these humans, walking guinea pigs, okay, for the government, for these physicians, for these scientists, for the inventors of these injections? Basically, that's what he's saying, but without saying it.
Which is what is needed when you've got to be able to collect data on patients. You've got to allow physicians to to test different treatments. You've got to allow physicians to be able to communicate with one another in a very open manner, and to be able to communicate with a patient in a very open manner. All of that was demolished. So
listen to this. So we know that through scientific research, data is supposed to be collected and tracked so that scientists, not only just here in the US, across the nation, but sometimes scientists communicate through articles, emails, phone calls, journals, different things, research papers, all across the globe, from Germany and over in Europe. They communicate with one another. What are you seeing, with your practice? What are you seeing with your search, your test results? Well, you comparing that to these people over here. Well, what's different about, your study? And then, they have controlled testing. But all of this was negated, and it seems like it went straight to the public, you all. Now, this sounds like an atrocity to me. It sounds like a conspiracy to me. What are your thoughts? But let's hear what the doctor has to say.
terrible things happened, and even the ability to rectify those terrible things was not made possible.
Okay, in so many words, the terrible things that happened are people lost their lives, okay? And it was not able to be rectified because we cannot bring the people back from the DEAD. Unfortunately, I know people that told me that they had relatives after taking this ended up no longer here. All right. And it is very unfortunate that they had people sign waivers and disclosures saying that they could not sue if something were to happen to them or their relatives. Let's keep going.
Because of the infrastructure that we saw for communication, for clinical care, for even patient interaction and connection with social media, censorship, and things like that. So
Let's stop here with the social media and censorship. My channel was hit heavily all throughout me talking about this. I have videos right now that I'm going to still post on Patreon that were taken down for mentioning the things that I knew about this. I actually had a holistic doctor that had one of the specialists to come on, and we watched a video, and they spoke about a scientist in a lab that actually put this injection under a microscope to see what it was. And y'all, he couldn't believe his eyes. He could not believe. He said the thing stood up and it had tentacles. That video that I had posted got, taken down for what was it? You know what they try to say, oh, it's miseducation, misguiding the public, whatever. But now you have a doctor coming out saying something that I already knew when this thing first started. All we need, y'all, is discernment and to listen to our higher being, our higher selves. We don't need these people in a white coat, a white lab coat, to tell us to inject something within our veins, altering our DNA. Let's keep going.
it's a terrible crime. It's still happening. It's happening in the background. And Dr. Joel Wallskog has done a tremendous amount with his organization, React 19, and other courageous individuals who have been directly injured by mRNA COVID-19 vaccines and other types of COVID-19 vaccines. And so I'm really pleased that he's here too. So, when we talked about having an event today, really what's inspired this discussion first was finally seeing the federal government making I would say a position, a statement that is a Florida-esque statement. And the characteristic of Florida-esque statements is that we tend to make these statements months, if not years, before other people. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's a good friend of mine. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, also someone who's a good friend of mine. And, I was really happy to hear Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, make an announcement saying that, well, guys, we're no longer going to recommend or promote mRNA COVID-19 vaccines for healthy children.
You just heard that. Robert F. Kennedy is the secretary of the Human Health Department, I believe he said, and they're no longer going to be urging them to push this mRNA COVID injection to healthy children. Why would you be giving them this in the first place? Because their little immune systems and their bodies probably really should not be inundated with foreign entities, let alone our bodies as adults should not be injected with these foreign entities. And, I think this is something that needs to be pushed to the forefront. This is very important. A lot of lives were altered and changed because this was pushed into the forefront to the public. And when I tried to come out, when a lot of people tried to come out and speak about it, we got attacked, we were ridiculed, we were criticized. And now you have a doctor saying the same thing that I said back in 2020. Let's keep going, y'all.
And some of the people here may remember when, thankfully, thanks to the courage and the willingness to do what is right, irrespective of whether it's popular, of Governor Ron DeSantis, we made that same announcement 3 years ago, I think, in South Florida, in Miami. And so we were happy to see the federal government doing that. And it's important to acknowledge that, Florida, certainly over the last few years, for many reasons, but in the health arena, particularly as it relates to medical freedoms and COVID-19, we've been in the news a lot and we've taken a lot of heat. And, we've taken a lot of heat from the mainstream media. Ironically, during all this time,
Let's stop right there. They've taken a lot of heat from the mainstream media, aka ABC, CBS, NBC. What did Donald Trump tell you? The news media is fake news. Who told us that we needed these injections? Dr. Fauci was all over the freaking internet, all over the news, all at the Breakfast Club being interviewed by the three freaking stooges, and nobody asked him the pertinent questions about this injection. Everything up there was a circus media. Oh, how do you feel having a bobblehead? And how do you feel getting the Men's Sexiest Men of the Year award, Angela Yee? And then, is wrestling a sport? DJ Envy. Dumb ass questions were being asked. And then the one good question that was asked, you know what Dr. Fauci said to Angela Yee? Good for you. Basically, like petting her on the head, like, good girl, you actually asked a pertinent question. This is what goes on in melanated urban media. And that's why you find people like that sitting on a public platform, because they're not really advocating for the greater good of the melanated people. They're up there to entertain us with complete petty nonsense and stupidity. And even, what's her name? Angie Martinez. She's annoying too, y'all. I watched one of her interviews and I just got so annoyed with the idiocracy that was going on. I couldn't take it anymore. But I digress. Let's continue to hear what this doctor has to say.
the people have been aligned with us. So more and more people have really moved from the position of buying into the things that we hear from the federal government into, frankly, agreeing, whether explicitly or implicitly, with what we've said in Florida. Very fortunately, very few people, very few children, and very few adults are putting these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines in their bodies. We still have older people doing it, but fewer people who are older are doing it also. And they shouldn't be doing it because they are not fit for human use.
Let's stop right there. This is very important. The language that he's using, he's being very careful with his word choice. This is not fit for human use. AKA, you should not be injecting this into the human body, which is something that I said 5 years ago when they kept attacking my channel. As a matter of fact, this should not even be going into animals, y'all. You don't even put this stuff into animals, but yet they want to put it into your babies and your children and pregnant women. You know what the real objective and the real agenda is. Let's keep going, y'all.
When was the last time that you had a vaccine that literally almost every single person knows someone who's had a bad reaction for them? Okay.
How many people, I would love to see y'all type it in the comment section or in the chat, know someone that had one of these injections and there was a bad reaction from it, whether you were around them, because these people, like I said, I did my research. There are articles that you can go out here and actually read that says that anytime someone is given an injection, whether it is the COVID or any other type of injection, that person sheds. They are supposed to go into quarantine, not released into the population of the general public. What's good, King Hazy? What's good? So what happens is when these people get these injections, they start shedding into the public. So you can get a reaction from a person that has had this injected into them. They didn't disclose that information, but if people did their proper research, they would have known this. Charles Williams, it's been a while since I saw you up here. What's good? You say you talking about from the pandemic? Yes, I know of one person close to me. That's what I'm talking about, Charles Williams. We all know someone that have had adverse reactions to having been injected. Let's keep hearing what the doctor has to say.
I've been a physician with my MD since 2011. And I've taken care of many patients, Boston, Los Angeles, and in Florida, I also see patients in the county health department from time to time. I have seen, until this pandemic, I could not tell you someone I knew individually who I was confident was actually injured from a vaccine. Now, there are very few people that I run into who either themselves have not had a bad reaction from these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, or who don't know someone who's had a bad reaction from these vaccines. They are terrible vaccines. I want to also acknowledge something else. Some of the reason that there hasn't been enough discussion about these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines is because there's a perception among some people that President Donald Trump is somehow responsible for this. I want to make it very clear. President Donald Trump, last I checked, he didn't go to medical school. Okay, he doesn't have a PhD in epidemiology or virology or immunology. His job was to lead the nation, and he did that the best way he could with the information he had. The people who are responsible for the carnage that we are witnessing, and frankly, that whether we witness it in a way that we know or witness it in a way that is unknown. And I'm talking about people who die suddenly or die unexpectedly or for whatever reason, but they're no longer here to speak, right? So that story goes away, except in the minds of their loved ones. The people who are responsible are the people who had the training, who had the scientific training, the clinical training, the training in data, to be able to know when things are risky, to be able to know how to properly evaluate the new products.
They should know how to properly evaluate these products, yet and still they still pushed it on the public. You had to either choose Moderna or Pfizer. Crazy, right?
Those are the people who are responsible. Dr. Anthony Fauci is one of the people that are responsible.
Thank you.
And frankly, every physician who decided to bury their head in the sand instead of facing up to the fact that the patient in front of them has some condition that could or probably was related to their vaccine injury, they are responsible. We all share, to some degree, a level of responsibility when we have training and expertise in this area. President Donald Trump is not responsible for the carnage that we have seen. He did the best that he could with the skills and the training that he has. Trying to protect President Trump is not a reason to not take care of the millions of people who have been injured by these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. We have a duty to do that. We absolutely have a duty to do that as clinicians, as scientists. We must do what we can. It is the ultimate travesty to allow this to continue to fester in the background without adequate attention. So today, I want to call on the federal government, NIH, to expand the work that they are doing in long COVID to genuinely and wholly include vaccine injured people, specifically people who have been injured by mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. We need to study this better. We need to fund physicians who are caring for these patients clinically and who are doing scientific work in this area. And we need to create networks that allow physicians to do what they are trained to do. And you do that by facilitating communication, exchange of data, and exchange of ideas. And it is long past time. I mean, this is a terrible tragedy that it's still happening, even though we have a change of leadership. It is a terrible tragedy. So that's what I'm calling on the federal government to do today. And with that, I want to call Dr. Pierre Kory to the podium. Thanks, Dr. Kory.
Good morning.
So there you have it, coming out of the doctor's mouth. You all, he's had his MD since 2014. He said he has actually cared for many, many patients that have been injured by these injections.
Just want to start by saying how honored I am to be here to speak on an issue that really is, to say near and dear to my heart. It's really the central focus of my current life's work, is trying to treat the vaccine injured. And the other thing is, I'm just honored to be a citizen of Florida. And, Dr. Ladapo used the word Florida-esque. And, I think we should all recognize that Florida has been a leader in actually science of COVID in terms of being open, transparent, willing to ask the tough questions and provide guidance and really look at their data transparently and share it with others. They've evolved with the data. These consensuses that were created within minutes of this COVID, which is that an experimental vaccine is safe and effective. That was the mantra before any real data of long-term safety or efficacy was there, needed to be reexamined. And I think Florida has led that. They have very quickly acted in terms of resisting mandates, coercion, proof of vaccination. They even, created a.
All right, so listen to the words and the terminology and the language he just used. Mandates, coercion. You mandate that these people take these injections, or they're out of a job. But this is something that you're using to experiment on. I mean, there should be so many lawsuits filed. It's ridiculous, y'all. This is basically an injustice on people's human rights. This is a civil issue as well. There's no reason why you should be mandated to inject an experimental dose of something that you know nothing about into your veins that can alter your DNA and cause you harm, bodily harm, and ultimately cause you to be taken off this earth. And they mandated this for people to keep their jobs.
Statewide grand jury to look into fraud behind this, because I guarantee you there is fraud. Hard to detect and provide the evidence for, but it's there.
He used the word fraud. There is definitely fraud going on. Who do you think got paid off to push this agenda? I think Dr. Fauci is on the forefront of this whole entire scenario. I think that Bill Gates is another crazy scientist, mad scientist gone wild. And both of them, if you didn't know, stole their research and data from other people. Bill Gates is not who you think he is. He's not the creator of Microsoft. And Dr. Fauci stole his research from someone else. Technically, he's not even a real doctor, y'all. Let's keep going. I digress.
And so anyway, I'm just I'm honored to be here and part of that. I think it's good science that's being done. It's science which is intended for the health of the public. You cannot make correct decisions unless you're fully informed. So how do you make health decisions unless you really are aware of the risks and benefits of any therapy that's being recommended or offered? And that wasn't the case in COVID. We were just simply told that everything was safe and effective. And many people were very trusting. That was their only fault, if that is a fault. And, like Dr. Ladapo mentioned, I think now the people are starting to ask questions because they know that they were essentially, you could say lied to or misrepresented. And one thing I'll say is Florida led the charge here, but Florida will never be as fast as an astute clinician. We know.
They were lied to. That's exactly what it was. They were not just misled, they were blatantly lied to get this injection.
Know this stuff before any of you, before the studies come out, before the database analysis is, we know it because we see it. Those of us on the front lines. I will just kind of transition. I want to say a few minutes of what I've been doing for the last few years, but 3.5 years ago, I left the system of medicine or was excommunicated, one of the two. I think it was mutual. But I went into private practice, and with the sole intent of building a specialty practice focused on the care of the vaccine injured and long COVID. I recognized that it was the greatest unmet medical need in the country. The patients were being gaslit, ignored, misdiagnosed, and there were legions of them. In my public advocacy and wherever I traveled or asked to speak, I was talking to just innumerable vaccine injured. As a curious clinician, and I like challenges, I decided to take on this disease. And I've now spent 3.5 years treating patients who are chronically ill from the vaccine. Now, without going too much into the science, I personally differentiate, I use two different terms. Vaccine injury, the way I use it, I think about that as a single organ dysfunction problem. So a stroke, a heart attack, myocarditis, an autoimmune condition.
Listen to this, y'all. So not only were the patients gaslit, they were misled and they were lied to. This is fraudulent. And this was done by the government. And on top of that, he just named the symptoms of some of what these injections cause. Myocarditis, basically, that's when the heart stops. And if you recall, a lot of males were suffering from heart conditions. Their hearts would stop beating after they had these injections.
What have you. When I use the term post-vaccine injury syndrome, that is a constellation of symptoms. And although we know this syndrome called long COVID, and we're only beginning to recognize long vax, I will tell you that is what my practice specializes in. Those are new terms for an old syndrome. What we're seeing is an epidemic of a disease that has long been called myalgic encephalitis / chronic fatigue syndrome. There's 3 pillars to that diagnosis, and they're all clinical. There are no tests for this syndrome, but it's patients who present with this constellation of fatigue, post-exertional malaise, and some sort of cognitive dysfunction that we sometimes use brain fog. That's not the only thing, the 3 things they come with, but those are generally present in any patient who comes to see me. They have a whole side menu, a side list of other symptoms from sensory neuropathies, motor neuropathies, cranial symptoms, headache syndrome.
Listen to these lists, y'all. Neuropathy. All these are neurological issues. Let me rewind it just a second. All right.
Dysfunction that we sometimes use brain fog. That's not the only thing, the 3 things they come with, but those are generally present in any patient who comes to see me. They have a whole side menu, a side list of other symptoms from sensory neuropathies, motor neuropathies, cranial symptoms, headache syndromes, tinnitus, vertigo, inflammatory syndromes, but the core is that. And the Mayo Clinic called that out in 2021 in regards to COVID, that they were seeing unprecedented rates of ME/CFS. Historically, ME/CFS has always been associated with infections. Most common is EBV or mono. Lyme disease can do it. Mycoplasma can do it. But with COVID, it's immense. And here's what I want to tell you, that in my practice, we treat long COVID and long vax. 70% of the patients in my practice became ill after the vaccine. They are long vax. The vast majority of what this rest of science in this country is calling long COVID is actually long vax. And how do I know the difference? Very easy. It's called temporal association. If someone's symptoms present within days to weeks of COVID, long COVID. If it presents within days to weeks or sometimes minutes to hours of the vaccine, it's long vax. It's not that complicated to know what the trigger was. And they both share pathogenic insults, which is this spike protein. And the sadness, and I'll try to wrap up because I don't want to go too long, but the sadness is in my first year in practice, I think the value that I brought to the patients is I listened to them. They understood that I understood them. I wasn't gaslighting them. I knew what was wrong with them.
Let me tell y'all something. Please, please, please listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Whenever a doctor tells you something and you second guess it and you don't feel right about it, always get a second opinion, a third opinion if you have to. Do your own research. Don't let these doctors make you feel that just because they have a degree and they've been to school that they know more than you, because this is your body, your health, your life. Doctors will push unnecessary procedures, unnecessary surgeries, unnecessary things, and even prescription drugs to patients who have very little understanding of what's going on. So it's very important that you get a second and third opinion if you have to, and do your own research. I am telling you from experience, I've just gone through something like this, not once but twice, where doctors have tried to push a surgery on me, and unbeknownst to me, I did my own research, and thank goodness for my holistic doctor, that there are other ways for us to heal. Our bodies are self-healing. All we have to do is put the right things into our bodies and do what we need to do. Get the proper rest, do the exercise, do what you need to do for yourself. But don't always just listen to a doctor because they tell you you need something, especially if you have doubts about it. I just have to say that it's very important, y'all.
What caused their illness, and I was willing to try to treat it. 3.5 years later, I think the value I bring is immense clinical experience using a diversity of therapies where I've been able to mitigate much of their suffering and return quite a bit of functioning. Many of them became disabled. And when I say that is so many of my patients, when you take their history prior to their illness, they will report that they ate well. They were absolutely successful in their careers. They liked to exercise and stay fit. They were raising their children. And now they found themselves barely able to get out of bed in some cases. Or if they do, they immediately get fatigued and they're back in their house. And a lot of them are housebound. They cannot work anymore. They become financially unhealthy. So the amount of kind of the ways in which they get sick is immeasurable. It's not only physical, it's financial, it's sexual, like with their relationships, it's occupational, they can't work. And so I see these multiply disabled patients who are really enjoying like the peak of their lives and now are decimated. And it's an endless sadness. But I'm very proud of the work I've done with myself and my colleagues. We've helped innumerable of them, but it is the most complex and idiosyncratic disease that I've ever encountered. And I hope to continue that work. And so I want to second that call that Dr. Ladapo just made, is that I've been doing this like hook and the crook, like a gumshoe detective trying to figure out how to help these patients. But I'd love for the government to back us up and find really good research that can help understand the disease better, select therapies better in order to mitigate the immense suffering that I see on a daily basis. So I'm really appreciative and grateful that you asked me to come, Joe. Thanks. Dr. Walskog. Oh, I'm supposed to introduce my colleague, Dr. Walskog. He's been a longtime friend and colleague now. We met in COVID. We both worked in Wisconsin together. And, just as I talked about my experiences, I will say that Dr. Walskog, he's been involved in really attending to supporting the vaccine injured, not only promoting research, but also financial support. In fact, part of your early fundraising was devoted to paying for the care of many of the vaccine injured. And he's since gone on to do lots more things and working on changing policy. And so I appreciate his organization that he co-founded, which is React 19, and everything that they're doing. And so welcome to Dr. Joe Walskog.
Thank you, Pierre. And thank you, Dr. Ladapo, for the invitation to speak today at the press conference here to discuss the removal of the COVID-19 shots in pregnant women and from the childhood immunization schedule.
Why on earth would you give this potent, disastrous, terrible, very, dangerous thing to a pregnant woman, to an underdeveloped child that's forming in utero? That's ridiculous, and that is cruel.
Here in the United States. Let me be clear. The COVID shots should have never been authorized in children and pregnant women, even in emergency use. As a physician, as a person who sustained an adverse event to the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, or I should say shot, and as co-chairman of React 19, which represents almost 40,000 Americans, I am hopeful that I can provide you all with some unique perspectives of the development and the safety of the COVID shots. I enjoyed a successful orthopedic practice in Wisconsin for 19 years. On December 30th of 2020, I received my one and only Moderna shot. Within 1 week after this injection, I developed problems with my legs, including weakness, numbness, and loss of balance, leading to numerous falls. I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis. All my providers did not even recognize the association of the injection. Since my original diagnosis, I've also been diagnosed with autonomic dysfunction and an unspecified immune disorder. I was forced to medically retire. I am now co-chair of React 19, which is a science-based, non-political, nonprofit organization that represents Americans seriously injured by the COVID-19 shots. Our mission is to provide the injured community with financial, physical, and emotional support. I am here today to express my profound concerns regarding the development and safety of the COVID-19 shots, particularly in children and pregnant women. In 2021, the American public was reassured that the clinical trials were rigorous with required oversight by our federal health regulatory agencies. We were also reassured that the rollout of the shots was carefully managed. We were repeatedly told the shots were safe. Growing evidence paints quite a different story. The process was undoubtedly rushed. Safety data was withheld or in certain instances altered. Maddie DeGarry, many of you may know her story. She was injured during the phase 3 Pfizer trial. She was 14. That was at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. She's 17 now, still in a wheelchair and using a feeding tube for nutrition. She has been gaslit by almost all of her providers in Ohio, and she's currently actually up in Jacksonville rehabilitating through the Ronald McDonald House. If you review that phase 3 clinical trial data about Maddie,
14 years old with a feeding tube, and she's being gaslit by the medical providers. They don't want to take accountability for this injection that they probably told her family to have her to take this when she was younger, because this was 5 years ago. So what was the girl, 10 or 11 when she was injected, and she has a feeding tube? This is egregious, y'all. This is absolutely ridiculous. This right here is a doctor that has autoimmune situations. That means his body is attacking itself. And I said this back then, that this thing will override your immune system, but my videos got taken down.
her symptoms are basically reduced to a stomach ache. And of course, not related to her Pfizer injection that received as part of the phase 3 clinical trial. Reporting systems such as VAERS and vSafe have been dismal failures. Are such reporting systems deficient by design is one of my questions. Are regulatory agencies such as the FDA publicly supported and openly promoted the experimental countermeasures in an obvious conflict of interest to its mission to protect Americans from drugs and medical devices? Regulatory norms were ignored. Instead of requiring pharmaceutical companies to prove the product was safe and effective, the COVID-19s were assumed to be safe and effective, with follow-up data sometimes as short as 2 weeks. These products were given to pregnant and lactating women, as well as children, with no long-term safety data. This decision to do that is counter to hundreds of years of medical dictum not to use experimental products in pregnant and lactating women and in children. I say all this to you today not to relive the past. I choose instead to admit the things we could have done better. I choose to focus on science and not polarizing, rhetoric. In React 19, we often say we've had negative reactions, but we seek positive actions. Science is rarely settled. Scientific conclusions can be changed with new information. I am certainly glad and appreciative that the COVID-19 shots have been removed from the childhood vaccination schedule for healthy children. This decision in healthy children and pregnant women will undoubtedly reduce future injury to these populations. However, much damage has already been done. There are countless children and adults who have been injured by the COVID-19 shots. As Americans, we need to recognize our fellow citizens injured by the COVID-19 shots in a non-judgmental fashion. They need acknowledgement, research, medical care, as well as fair and just compensation. I will not stop until we achieve these humanitarian goals. Thank you.
Yeah. It's very disheartening to find out that now that so many people have had injury, so many people have lost their lives due to this, because that's another thing when they say that there was irreversible damage. Some people cannot come back from the grave. And now they're saying that this should have never ever been injected into a human being. Also, the fact that they would say that this is not recommended for healthy babies, healthy children, pregnant women. What about the unhealthy children? Would you put this into an unhealthy child? I don't even think this is safe for an unhealthy child. It should be eradicated from all living creatures to be injected with something like this. I just think they need to pull it off the shelves once and for all. I don't think anybody should have access to inject anybody. You're poisoning people in their veins, and this should be illegal.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Walskog. Okay, well, we'll take a few questions. Anyone who has questions for Dr. Corey, Dr. Walskog, or myself?
Was one vaccine worse than another, and what's the future for people who are already taking vaccine, because there are problems as they go with their lives?
Yeah, very important questions. So first of all, multiple studies now, to be very clear, multiple studies now show that of the two, Moderna and Pfizer is definitely worse. Pfizer is worse for cardiovascular side effects related to blood clotting. Pfizer is worse for neurologic effects, and Pfizer is worse for serious adverse events overall. A few studies have shown that Pfizer may be associated with an increase in mortality also compared to Moderna. The vaccines, they are not the same. You've heard my opinion, Dr. Corey's, Dr. Walskog's opinions about their use in general, but between the two of them, Pfizer is definitely worse. You've got probably more myocarditis cases.
Mortality meaning DEATH, death, mortality. Pfizer. Now, do y'all remember these Pfizer commercials that they kept scrubbing, like stuffing down our throats every time we turn on YouTube, every time we get on the internet? Pfizer. They tried to ram it down our throats and our necks, and they kept telling people to go get these shots. They were all up in the McDonald's parking lot, y'all, outside with the mobile injection sites. Now, you know that can't be sterile. You're giving out injections to people in a dirty parking lot. Like, come on. They were giving out lottery tickets. They were giving out all types of rewards and prizes for people that would get these injections. You know something was wrong.
Cases with Moderna, but Pfizer is worse overall. And then, the second question you asked is a really good one. Another doctor that I think probably all of us admire, a doctor named Dr. Mary Bowden in Texas. She's been writing a bit about how she's been testing antibody levels. And what she's finding is that levels of antibody to spike protein for people who have been vaccinated, who are her patients, they remain elevated for long periods of time. And that's not normal. That's completely abnormal. So this is just part of the reason why we absolutely need more infrastructure in this area, more scientific infrastructure, more funding to support the patients and the physicians and the scientists who can help us understand what the long-term impacts are for all populations who've received these products. Any other questions? Yeah.
Quick question. So can you speak a little bit to the determination to remove it from the vaccine schedule for healthy children versus the verbiage of saying for all children?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that we get there. Obviously, there's a difference, and I hope that we get there because these products, they should not be used in any human beings. And there's some people who are trying to put them in animals too, and I think many of us wouldn't want to eat that food either, that meat.
Sort of along those lines, what's your recommendation for the older population if they're weighing whether or not they should continue?
Okay, yeah. So I apologize that it hasn't been clear. They shouldn't take them. They are products that should not be going into human beings. And in terms of alternatives for individuals who are still concerned, there are a few things to recognize. First of all, you should know that there is a lot of evidence from different studies in different groups that show that the people who receive these vaccines, including older people, eventually become at increased risk of contracting COVID-19. So there's a negative effect or negative efficacy, or pardon me, negative effectiveness associated with them. Second, there are treatments. The treatments aren't fantastic, but there are treatments. There's a drug that Merck makes. There's a drug that Pfizer makes called Paxlovid. There's actually another outpatient option too that's IV. And for prevention, there's actually a monoclonal antibody that's been approved by the FDA. So it essentially functions similar to a vaccine that people can take it. It's every 6 or 12 months or so. So there are options for people beyond that.
In your opinion, should the adjectives healthy and young, should those be dropped from the guidelines then? It should just be universal for everyone?
Yeah, so actually that brings me to the third point that I didn't mention before. So at this point, literally every walking human being, every adult has had COVID-19 before. And the risk of an adverse outcome for someone who's had COVID-19 is extremely low. So we are in the area for certainly for young people, of something that is comparable to, to the cold, right? To rhinovirus. People can still get sick, but in terms of actual major health impacts for almost virtually all young people and virtually all healthy people who've had this before, it's really not something that it should be elevated to the level of other conditions that we have more concern about. And then the other thing again to mention is that increasingly it appears that the folks who have received these vaccines, particularly when they've been boosted and particularly when they continue to be boosted, appear to actually be at highest risk of becoming seriously ill from the virus. Great. Okay, go ahead, sir.
What level of optimism are you?
So it makes these people get even more sick when they get the boosters, basically. It does the opposite of what it's supposed to do. So what was the point in getting it from the very beginning? Yeah, this is atrocious.
That when it comes to, we'll figure this out, we'll get safe vaccines, maybe no vaccine, like how do you feel about that in the future going forward?
Am I an optimistic person? I'm not sure. I generally think that I wouldn't even call it optimism. Optimism's not wrong word. I am confident that things are going to get better. What I don't know is the time, how long it's going to take, what the timeline is, but I'm very confident that things are going to get better. And it's really up to us to keep doing what we're doing here today, what these guys have been doing for years, and what other people who have been courageous and really stood with the truth, however uncomfortable it was. So with all of that, we're going to keep going in the right direction. The more of us that do it, the faster we'll get there. All right. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, that is that. It is so unfortunate that so many people have been injured as a result of being falsely lied to by yours truly, Dr. Fauci, and all these people pushing for people to get these injections. And where is this little leprechaun now? Where is he at? He's got to be somewhere at the end of the pot of gold. Somebody needs to go find him and put hands on him. Where is he at? Little leprechaun looking Keebler elf. Oh my goodness, y'all. I knew that there was going to be, a lot of bad things to take place because of those injections. Look, Keebler elf looking. Look, let me show y'all. For those of you who don't remember Dr. Fauci, which they call him a doctor, he's not a real doctor, y'all. But this is what this little Keebler elf looks like. This is him right here. Y'all remember him? All up on the TV screen, pushing for these injections, talking about how safe it is, saying that he got his injection. Now you go get yours. Y'all remember that? Where is he at now? It is ridiculous. And people need to boycott Pfizer, boycott Moderna. As a matter of fact, it's up to you, but I definitely would boycott injections if it were me. I don't trust any of them. I don't even believe our bodies need those things. The Creator gave us everything we need to heal itself. Everything that we need, y'all. You said he looked like someone from the old Christmas cartoons. Look, leprechaun, Keebler elf looking idiot. Y'all, it's sad that they sit up here and lie to people like that. And a lot of people, I know so many people went and did it out of being scared, nervous. They scared people. A lot of elderly people didn't know any better and they did it. It's sad. And I remember Trump speaking out about this as well. I do remember. I don't know if y'all remember, but I remember. Let me see something here. I'm just trying to do something real quick, y'all. This freaking Keebler elf looking dwarf. It's sad. It's sad and it's ridiculous.
You have to be interested in this. It is extraordinarily impressive. The answer is actually yes. And the reason is because you want to create what's called a blanket of protection for entire society.
Just making up ish. He's supposed to be a doctor. He sounds dumb. Like, who would believe in this nonsense? Listen to him. You want to create a blanket of protection for entire society. That doesn't even make sense. When the body has a natural immunity built within it, the Creator gave us an immune system for a reason.
So even though you're young, you could get a serious consequence. Youth doesn't protect you at all. Clearly, young individuals are less likely to get serious involvement, but they're not totally protected from that. So a vaccine is good for you as an individual, but it's also good if you want to completely crush this outbreak the way we did with smallpox and polio and measles. You want virtually everybody to get vaccinated. So it's almost a societal responsibility to do that.
Look at these lies, y'all. Look at these lies. Call that Keebler elf to the forefront. Somebody go find this Keebler dwarf looking elf and hold him accountable, y'all.
So people think, well, maybe the government has influence here, or maybe the company is in fact putting undue influence because they want their product accepted. That doesn't happen. You have an independent board of vaccinologists, of immunologists, of virologists, of statisticians, of ethicists who look at the data, and when they decide that this is a safe and effective vaccine, Nobody else knows about it but them. They then make the data available to the company. Then the company looks at the data, confirms in their own mind, puts a package together, and presents it to the FDA. At that point, the career scientists, not the politicians, examine it and scrutinize it very carefully. Then they call in their own advisory group, which they've had for years, advising them on whether it's a good or a bad idea to give this vaccine the blessing to say it's an emergency use authorization or a biological license application approval. This advisory group, again, is an independent group.
Shut up, okay? Because we just heard that they didn't have any data to reference. Basically, they use these people as guinea pigs because this was experimental. They experimented on the general population of people. That's what they did. And he's up here lying to the American people. Somebody go find this dwarf, this Keebler-looking leprechaun, and hold him accountable.
If they then say to their FDA, this is a good thing to do, then the FDA will grant an emergency use authorization. When they do that, and when they approve it, you can be guaranteed that this process was independent and was transparent. I will tell you that when my turn comes up to get a vaccine, based on what the FDA says that it's safe and effective, I will get a vaccine and I will recommend to my family when their turn comes up that they should take a vaccine. There will be recommendations likely that one vaccine might be better for maybe elderly individuals versus younger individuals versus individuals with underlying conditions. So it will be made clear that you would likely have a choice, just the way you have a choice with an influenza vaccine. But when there is information that one might be better for a certain demographic group, that will be made public.
Wait the freak a minute here. What do they mean? One is better for a certain demographic group. What is that supposed to mean? Because you do remember, in the words of Donald Trump back in 2020, I have this on record on one of my videos, that he specifically said that melanated people, he didn't say melanated people, he said African Americans were more likely going to be impacted by this pandemic. So what does he mean, certain demographic? And I'd like to point out that it was also stated that they had a certain set of injections for a certain demographic group in one vial, and in a different zip code, they had a different type of injections in these other vials for these other zip codes, for these other people that lived in a certain side of town. This is why you cannot trust the government and these people in these white lab coats. Y'all, this is ridiculous. Skyla, how are you? You said, hey, beautiful. Yes, I completely agree. Those with eyes can see through the whole CVID BS 2020. Opened my eyes up a whole lot. Yes, ma'am. Shout out to the beauty that you have as well. Skyla, y'all make sure y'all follow SKYLAH. She has a YouTube channel. Check her out. She has wonderful, great energy, y'all. I'm just very passionate because I hate when they lie to the people like this. King Hazy, you said you probably don't give a F about your family either then. Right. He doesn't care about his family if he's going to recommend that they get this shot, right? And Skylar said, I worked in the hospital during COVID. It's crazy. You wouldn't believe the stuff that was happening. I can only imagine, Skylar. I can only imagine what was happening. I heard so many stories that nurses were quitting their jobs. They said they couldn't go through with it. I heard doctors were quitting. They walked away because they said there was no way that they were going to push that narrative or take these injections. Not only that, I did some research on here a few years ago, and it was also stated that they were trying to put the COVID injection in our fruit and vegetables, y'all. Oh, yes. I'm pretty sure that that video got taken down as well. My channel got attacked. So y'all didn't see me on here for a while because I got so discouraged. And as a matter of fact, I also have a Rumble account. So also, if you have Rumble downloaded, go over there to Rumble and sign up to my channel. It's called Living Legend TV. You can find me, Living Legend TV. All right. And let me see. Skylar, you said, thank you, lovely. You're too sweet. No, no problem at all. You said right, and you said, yep, staff were getting fired for not getting the injection. They had to submit a whole explanation on why we didn't want it. The only way to avoid it was religious reasons. You should not be subjected to have to go through something like that. It is so wrong what they were doing to people, y'all. I remember because I used to talk about this was a heavy topic for me back in the day. And I didn't take it. And I had a conversation with my family, my relatives, and my parents. I sat them down and said, don't go to the hospitals while this was going on. And definitely don't get these injections, y'all. I told my sister, I told everybody. I said, don't do it. I don't trust it. And I told them why. Yeah, because it's ridiculous that they would even suggest you just heard the doctor say this should not be going on. They shouldn't even be putting this into any human living creature.
They have an informed choice.
We didn't know. They did not have an informed choice. They were lied to. So somebody go find that Keebler elf wherever he is and hold him accountable. That is ridiculousness, y'all. So I just came across that video early this AM, and I was like listening to it while I was getting ready and stuff. And I said, I definitely want to come on and talk about this because I think that this needs to be heard. I do know someone that actually had the injection done, and they are developing symptoms of what the doctor says they have neuropathy. And that is one of the symptoms of having that injection, y'all. So this stuff is very real. It's very unfortunate that they can misrepresent. And then, they have a patent on this thing. They have a real live patent on this. And let's look up, because I had actually looked up the ingredients of what's inside these injections, which one of them was paint thinner, plastic. All of that stuff got taken off of my Instagram, y'all. So I had to disguise it under a different title. And in the title, I said, check out this house. And I had a picture of a house. But when you click on the video, it wasn't even that. It was talking and showing the ingredients that were in these injections. They don't want us to know the truth. But who is the owner of the Pfizer? Yeah, I want to know who the owner is. Let's see. Let's check this out, y'all. These people need to be held accountable for what they've done to people. It says here, the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 was developed and is manufactured and distributed through a collaboration between two companies. BioNTech, a German biotechnology company that developed the mRNA technology and designed the V word. Pfizer is an American multinational pharmaceutical corporation that partnered with BioNTech to conduct clinical trials, y'all, handle logistics, and manufacture the V word. Charles Pfizer and Charles Earhart founded Charles Pfizer and Company in a red brick building in Brooklyn, New York, Maiden Lane in Manhattan, photo 1868. Let's see here. Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street being the top three. These institutions primarily holding shares through index funds collectively own a significant portion of the company. This is all about money. These people are multi-billionaires because I did the research a few years ago and I had looked some of this stuff up. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Vanguard. So I want y'all to know that Vanguard, if you're not aware of Vanguard, they used to hold my 401k account. Okay. So Vanguard is a retirement company that holds people's retirement shares and holds your retirement funds. There's Vanguard, there's Empower, there's Fidelity. So if you ever had a 401k, these companies hold the money and they actually make money with your money sitting in these accounts. Vanguard, the Vanguard Group is the largest institutional shareholder in Pfizer, holding a significant percentage of the company's outstanding shares. This is all about money and greed, y'all. Let me see what you're saying, Skyla. It's always the crooked sharing companies. I know it is so wrong. And then let's see, BlackRock is another major institutional investor in Pfizer, also holding a substantial number of shares. Okay. Other institutional investors, Wellington Management. Y'all, all of this is about greed and financial gain. All of this is about greed and financial gain. And I do remember Johnson and Johnson. Now, doesn't Johnson and Johnson make a baby powder? Wasn't it said that we found out that baby powder, the talc powder, is not good for children, and baby oil, no diddy, but the baby oil is not good for babies. Actually, there was a lawsuit filed against Johnson and Johnson and his baby oil because it was not good for infants. So again, we have Pfizer and Johnson in cahoots, okay? Because they were a part of it. I guess they have split ties. However, Johnson & Johnson did buy Pfizer's consumer health unit for $16.6 billion in cash in 2006. So who would benefit to gain to be having these injections pushed on people? The more and more these people get these injections, who stands to gain from this, y'all? All right, let's see who made. So this was developed in Germany. Okay, so the Germans made the Pfizer injection. Albert Bourla became the CEO for Pfizer in January of 2019. Albert Bourla. Y'all all get a picture, a whiff of what he looks like. Breakthroughs that change patients' lives. I bet it does. With the focus on driving the scientific and commercial innovation needed to transform human health. You definitely transformed human health in a negative way. So you should be very proud of yourself. You definitely caused people to transition off this earth as well. Albert Bourla. Just greedy. Largest shareholders of the mRNA include Vanguard again, BlackRock again, yep, look at this. Same people, y'all. Just greed. Y'all, it is ridiculous and it's atrocious. That's why we got to do our research. We have to do our research, y'all. I've been on here for an hour and 13 minutes. I also wanted to talk about that guy, that melanated scientist guy, the inventor. I can't think of his name right now, but he turned plastic into diesel fuel, and he calls it plaster fuel. What does he call it? Diesel plast or something? Hold on. He has come up missing, y'all. Yes, it is possible to convert plastic waste into diesel fuel. Let me see. So I think somebody has stole his invention. And let me just show you a screenshot of what he looks like, y'all. Because people have been talking about it. Somebody sent me some information on him. This is the guy right here. He looks to be, I don't know, he looks like he's from some part of Africa. But this is the guy that actually found out how to turn plastic into diesel fuel. Okay, it's called pyrolysis. It's the process used to heat to break down the plastic in the absence of oxygen, converting it into gaseous and liquid form. All right, so this young guy right here.
Eugene, Oregon, baby. Eugene, Oregon. Eugene, Oregon. I am here and I have brought with me Plastidiezel, a diesel alternative made from plastic waste. A diesel alternative that has just passed a diesel test certification and has been scientifically proven to be cleaner than pump diesel. And today we are about to make history because we're going to run the first ever modern common rail fuel injection diesel vehicle ever off of plastic waste in all of human history right here in Eugene, Oregon, baby. So we got the engine, we got the fuel. Are you guys ready? Yeah. Let's do it. So right now, everybody, we are sucking all of the real diesel out of the fuel filter of this Volkswagen Passat. So you guys can come in close and see the diesel getting sucked out. So you know that this is legit.
I think it'd be perfect.
I think so too. Yeah, the displacement.
Yeah, you got a big ass.
Yeah, yeah.
Car owner just changed 20,000 miles.
All right, everybody who's filming for me, get in close right there. So the fuel filter of this Volkswagen TDI Passat has just been sucked to dry of all the real diesel, and we're going to be putting my Plastidiezel made from plastic waste inside of there. Just enough.
Yeah, should be perfect. No break, and go ahead and cycle it.
We're good to go.
We're gonna cycle it a couple times.
All right. So we're going to get the engine primed right now. So we're just cycling the engine on and off to get that fuel pump, to get that Plastidiezel in throughout the hoses before we get it started. So right now the Plastidiezel is being primed throughout the system. So we're just clicking the engine on, clicking it off to get that fuel pump, to pump it around before we... There we are! Yeah. Like nothing! So smooth! Wow!
That's crazy.
Wow! Look, that's even easier than I thought it was gonna go. That was just... It's running!
You see how excited he is? Look at how excited he is.
First ever right here! It works!
That's crazy stuff.
We did it! Eugene, Oregon, right here, baby! Yes, sir! Wait, we good?
That smells cleaner.
Hey, come back here! They say it smells cleaner!
All right, so you can see he was very, very excited about what just happened.
To facilitate recycling programs, and then they pay disposal companies to basically pretend like it's being recycled and then throw it away, and it ends up in the ocean. So like if you were into rescuing the oceans or the just recycling plastic, we could all go out and gather 1,000 pounds of plastic today, turn it into the recycling, and a good portion of it would end up in the oceans and all the places we picked it up from. And so what you're offering is a way for people to like actually know that that plastic they picked up is not going back to the ocean.
Right.
Okay, so really, this is to help the environment. You all, he's not the only one that, came up missing for an invention like this. If you didn't know, there was a guy that developed basically a way to make cars run off of water. Okay, inventor that made car run off of water. He ended up DEAD, y'all. Okay. Now let me show y'all. Because this was actually, I think we watched this years ago, this guy that came up missing. Okay. So it says here the mysterious death of Stanley Meyer, and it says his water power car. All right. Let me see if I can bring this up. I don't even know. It won't even bring up. Hold on. It's not bringing up the article for some reason. Let me try to go back and click on it again. Oh my goodness. Will it? Stanley Meyer, y'all. There's another guy too. There was another guy. Let me click on this. Hold on. Try to bring it up. Hmm. So he's talking about it. Where's the guy at though? Mm-mm. Where is he at? Anyway, y'all can actually research this as well. I'm trying to find it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this for y'all. So just a second, okay? All right, here we go.
Plenty of inventors who have either claimed to crack the case or have been close to a solution only for things to go wildly off the rails. Meet Stanley Meyer, for example. Meyer claimed to have built a water fuel cell, allowing a dune buggy to run entirely on water. This is technology that could have been expanded to make your car run on water as well. That's right, unravel your hose, fill up the tank, and be going down the road with nothing more than some H2O in your tank. Meyer claimed to have replaced spark plugs with a water splitter, which would essentially derive power by splitting water into its hydrogen and oxygen molecules, which could then be burnt as fuel using a typical internal combustion engine in the process. Meyer's claims were never able to be independently verified, and in 1996, he ended up in an Ohio court where he would be found guilty of gross and egregious fraud. He then died of an aneurysm in 1998. However, some conspiracy theories have gone on to claim that Meyer was perhaps poisoned by big oil. He wasn't alone in exploring this idea, as a number of other so-called inventors have dug into the concept as well. The majority of the tech seems to work the same way, with the separation of water into usable fuel molecules. Many of these so-called inventors, though, also end up in court with the term fraud being thrown around in many cases. So, is the idea of water-powered cars nothing more than a snake oil sales tactic?
Okay. Yeah, I know. And there have been people that have lost their lives doing this type of research. Why is that the case? Because who owns the oil companies, y'all? Who owns the gasoline? So, Shell gas stations are owned by yours truly, George Bush and them, the Bushes. They own the Shell gas stations. So, any threat to their wealth is going to end up in an untimely demise for people that are just trying to simply help the environment. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the engagement in the chat. Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And I'll try to come on here more regularly. This has been an episode of Brown Girls Are Beautiful. As always, continue to walk in your divinity, celebrate yourself, and stay blessed, y'all. We got to be very careful. This world is not what it used to be. It is not what it's very evil. People are very greedy. very vicious, ruthless, vindictive. Always, always do your research, no matter if this person is a doctor. I don't care. If you have any doubt, research it, because your life is worth it. Okay. And we're going to try to spread truth over here. This is the channel of substance. A lot of channels are not going to give you truth. A lot of channels are going to keep talking about celebrity gossip. All right. These celebrities are not trying to help us. So we have to help ourselves. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed night, and I will see y'all later. I'm going to go ahead and sign out, and let me see what video I want to play, y'all. Let me see. Here we go. No, not that one. This one. Signing out, y'all.